Bay Delta's mystery. Aaron Voss wiped the sweat from his brow as he ducked under the massive service gantry in Maintenance Bay Delta. For 20 years, he had been the backbone of Argent Horizon Station's mechanical crew, fixing airlock seals, calibrating gravity plates, and coaxing life back into worn-out fusion cores. Yet nothing in all his years could have prepared him for the sight that met him when he arrived for his midnight shift. A faint blue glow pulsed from beneath a heavy tarp. Its rhythm was almost alive, like a heartbeat. Corporate had sent an urgent order to tow an unidentified pod from Dock 3 to Bay Delta for minimal intervention. But when the gantry crane lifted the tarp, Aaron saw raw damage. Jagged holes where exotic alloys buckled, wiring sparking in and out of exotic conduits, and coolant hisses like distant steam vents. Standard Earth protocols offered no entries for this technology. Curious despite himself, Aaron activated his portable scanner. It chirped, sputtered, and displayed rows of unknown glyphs. Data streams tunneled into realms he had never seen. Most mechanics would have shut down and called security, but Aaron's mind raced with possibilities. What alien design unleashed this strange energy? What story lay inside this battered pod? He climbed onto the pod's hull, gingerly prying open a hatch with his vibro wrench. The hinges gave with a hiss of escaping air. A soft luminescence spilled out, revealing a small figure curled on a bioluminescent cot. The creature was no larger than a human child. Its skin shimmered with shifting scales of green and violet, and 4 slender arms rested at its sides. 2 large, opalescent eyes blinked in surprise. Aaron froze. He glimpsed the portable directive on his wristcom. Standard rates. No unauthorized modifications. Clear and tau. He silenced the chime. There was something vulnerable in those eyes. Frail, curious, and terrified. Compassion surged through him. He crouched and offered an empty hand. "Hey there," he said softly, careful not to startle the alien. "I'm Aaron. You okay?" The alien's eyes widened. It pressed a small device to its chest. A gentle hum filled the bay as broken words formed in his comlink. Help. Repair. Unsafe. Though primitive, the translation module made Aaron's heart twist. This was no threat. This was a child lost in space, seeking a way home. Ignoring corporate protocol, Aaron grabbed his toolpack and knelt beside the pod's open access port. Whatever had shredded this hull had also fried the life support manifold and fractured the navigation drives. He ran his hand over the alien's biofabric sheath, feeling its faint warmth. "Hang tight, little one. I'll try to get you breathing right first." For hours, Aaron worked by the flickering glow of emergency lamps. He rigged temporary seals with salvaged polymer strips and jury-rigged coolant lines using parts from his own toolkit. Each time he patched one breach, another hissed open. Sparks danced across his welding torch as he reforged alien alloy to his own specifications. There was no manual for this. He relied on intuition, weaving human metalwork with alien circuitry. The child watched him with those unblinking eyes, occasionally offering a second tool with a deft pinch of its fingers. In that silent exchange, a fragile trust took root. Aaron found himself smiling. "Thanks," he said when the alien thrust him a spanner that fit perfectly. For a moment, the danger melted away. By dawn, the pod's life support flickered steady. The coolant loop stabilized at safe pressure, and the propulsion interface showed signs of revival, though far from full power. Aaron sat back, exhaustion pressing on his limbs. He dared to imagine sending this small traveler home, back to its own world. Corporate would hate the delays, but how could he turn away? Suddenly, his comm crackled. Station Director Yates's voice barked through. "Voss, status report. You're over time. Corporate demands minimal intervention. Prep it for tau no later than 0800. Aaron frowned. He tapped his comm to mute the transmission. He risked everything with one choice: obey orders or save a life. He closed the pod's access hatch with a final clang and deactivated the safety locks. The small door slid shut, sealing the alien inside. A soft thrum vibrated across the hull as the pod systems hummed back to life. Erin wiped a smear of grease from his forehead and leaned back against the gantry. In that stillness, he thought of his daughter, lost years ago to a station disaster. He had prayed then for someone to help her. Now fate had placed him in this bay with a new child who needed him. He drew a breath and keyed his comm. Yates, tell corporate I'll need extra time. Repairs are complete. Pod is stable. There was a long pause. Then, understood Voth. But no upgrades beyond original specs. Clear this bay ASAP. Erin tapped off. He knew he had already gone far beyond specs. Yet as he gazed at the inert pod, he felt a quiet pride. Tonight, human ingenuity and compassion had braved the unknown. And deep inside Bay Delta, something small and alien stirred, its many-faceted eyes reflecting hope for the first time in empty space. Tools and trust. Erin Voss settled beside the humming pod in Bay Delta, eyes tracing the soft glow of its restored life support. Through the open access hatch, he could see the small alien curled inside, its 4 limbs folded protectively. The translation module still crackled with broken phrases, but each pulse of light and soft hum spoke volumes. Erin exhaled, rubbing grease from his gloves. "I'm going to call you Zarek," he said, offering the name without knowing if it meant anything. Zarek's opalescent eyes widened as though surprised, and the translator chimed. Designation accepted. With the pod's basic systems stable, Erin laid out his tools, spanners, welders, a patchwork of salvaged polymers, and a handful of human-made sensors. He pointed to a scorched circuit board embedded in alien alloy. This needs a better coolant loop and cleaner signal paths, and no sparks near your life support. Zarek's eyes flicked from the board to Erin's hands, and back again. Slowly, it extended one delicate arm, holding a slender rod that fit neatly into Erin's pliers. Erin accepted it, surprised. "You've got a steady grip," he murmured. Over the next hours, the two worked in quiet harmony. Erin taught Zarek how to secure conduit clamps. Zarek offered a tiny scanner whenever Erin called for one. In the glow of emergency lighting, the metal of Erin's makeshift loop wound around the pod's coolant coils, and Zarek watched every turn, learning by imitation. When Erin paused to tighten a final bolt, Zarek nudged his elbow, offering a torque driver that fit perfectly. A spark of laughter, real, human laughter, escaped Erin's throat. "Not bad for a first try," he praised. As their teamwork grew, communication deepened. Erin described his daughter lost long ago on a distant outpost. Zarek listened with solemn eyes. In return, the alien offered images in the translator, swirling galaxies, distant starscapes, and a tiny homeworld lush with violet forests. Though the words were crude, the meaning was clear, gratitude and wonder. Erin felt his heart swell. Here was a life he could not abandon, no matter the orders. Mid-repair, Erin's wrist comm crackled to life. Supervisor Dana Cross's sharp voice cut through the calm. "Voss, status update. Corporate demands only field repairs. No enhancements. Prep for immediate TOW once life support holds for 30 minutes. Erin frowned and tapped his comm off. He stared at Zarek, whose eyes reflected both trust and hope. Ignoring the directive, Erin gently closed the hatch on the coolant access port. "I'm staying as long as it takes," he told Zarek softly. The alien's gentle hum seemed to accept his vow. Erin dove deeper into the alien systems. He rewrote navigation subroutines, adding fail-safe loops to prevent sudden course jumps. He fashioned a miniature capacitor array from human scrap that would stabilize the power feed, a design no human pod had ever needed. Sparks flew as he calibrated the quantum drive stabilizer. Wires sizzled, and the pod shivered under the strain. Zarek's small hands hovered, ready to help but cautious. Erin glanced up, noticing fear flash in those multifaceted eyes. He gestured a calming wave. "We've got this," he promised. Suddenly, a power surge roared through the pod. Lights flickered, and ozone stung Aaron's nostrils. He yanked his welding mask down and dove for Zarek, shielding the alien from the blast of leaking current. Singed cables hissed nearby. Zarek pressed flat against the cocoon of Aaron's arms, transparent membranes of its skin quivering in shock. Aaron's heart pounded as he pressed the emergency cutoff switch. The surge died. In the dim glow, Aaron cradled Zarek, ensuring the small life pod quieted into steady warmth once more. When the danger passed, Zarek reached up and laid a slender hand against Aaron's visor. The translator crackled. Protection, depths of gratitude. Aaron's breath caught. No station manual had prepared him for this, a bond across species that went beyond protocols. He lifted Zarek gently back into the pod, sealing the hatch. By the time the simulator lights cycled through system tests, life support readouts held firm, propulsion diagnostics flickered green, and power reserves exceeded safe margins. Aaron leaned against the gantry, exhaustion heavy in his bones. He watched the pod's exterior hum with renewed vitality. "There," he said with a tired smile. "You're more than ready." Zarek pressed a small panel, and a soft glow illuminated a series of translated words. "Human ingenuity exceeds expectations. Life debt honored." Aaron felt tears sting his eyes. He brushed more grease from his face and straightened his jacket. "Come morning, corporate will want to tie you away," he said quietly. "But right now, you're not alone." Zarek's eyes glimmered with something like pride. As the first hint of station alarms began, a signal that Bay Delta would soon be cleared, Aaron placed a hand on the pod's smooth hull. "I'll see you again," he vowed. Zarek's translator hummed one last message before the pod's interface locked. "Until our paths cross among the stars." Aaron Vos stepped back into the shadows of Bay Delta, leaving behind a small craft reborn by human hands and an unlikely friendship sealed in metal and trust. The corporate directives might label his work as unauthorized, but in Zarek's future voyages, Aaron knew his mark would endure, proof that empathy and expertise could bridge even the vast gulf between worlds. Unauthorized innovations. Morning light filtered through the maintenance bay's narrow windows as Aaron Vos leaned over Zarek's pod, tracing his fingers along its newly stabilized hull. He reviewed the diagnostic readouts once more. Life support at 100%, propulsion charging steadily, and navigation protocols patched to prevent unexpected jumps. Yet something nagged at him. The pod systems were functional, but they remained under-optimized, still clunky compared to the elegant alien engineering hiding beneath the repairs. Aaron paused, glancing at the corporate directive clipped to his wristcom. No upgrades. Minimal intervention. He frowned. Human ingenuity thrived on challenges, and this was the greatest mechanical puzzle he'd ever faced. Rather than simply restore, he felt compelled to enhance. If he could improve efficiency, reduce stress on the alien components, and boost reliability, he could ensure Zarek's safety on the long journey home. He tapped a sequence on his datapad and pulled up his own custom subroutines, designs he'd sketched in secret over months, using spare cycles in the station's training simulator. His hybrid coolant loop idea promised a 30% increase in heat exchange, and his modified power converters could handle the pod's quantum drive spikes more smoothly. None of this was authorized, but Zarek's life was worth the risk. With renewed determination, Aaron stripped the outer panel from the pod's stern. Beneath the alien alloy lay a lattice of conduits shimmering with bioluminescent coolant. Carefully, he detached the old loops, labeling each line with glowing tracer tags. Then he fitted his human-made coils, tighter, more densely wound, and wrapped in a polymer sheath to prevent leaking. He secured each connection with precision crimps borrowed from an obsolete Earth shuttle. As the new loop settled into place, Aaron's datapad buzzed with energy fluctuation warnings. He turned to the quantum drive housing and activated his customized capacitors. Each unit slid into the rack with a satisfying click, and he routed the feed lines through his own surge protectors. Sparks danced at the junctions, but the surge remained contained. Aaron exhaled, feeling the familiar thrill of a breakthrough. Word of his work spread quickly among the station's junior mechanics. A small crowd gathered at the bay entrance, curious faces peering at the hybrid systems he was grafting onto alien hardware. Some shook their heads, citing regulations. Others muttered admiration at his daring. Aaron paid them no mind. He was in the zone, chasing the perfect merger of human grit and extraterrestrial genius. Hours later, he turned to the navigation core. The original alien code was elegant but lacked redundancy. A single error could strand Zarek in deep space. Aaron wrote auxiliary failsafe loops in a human scripting language, layering them beneath the alien firmware. He tested each sequence in the bay's simulation grid, watching emergency shutdown procedures trigger and reset flawlessly. A proud smile crept across his face. As he worked, Zarek's pod remained open for occasional checks. Aaron invited the young alien to observe, and Zarek hovered by the hatch, forelimbs folded, eyes bright with anticipation. When Aaron explained a technical concept, albeit clumsily, Zarek's translator emitted an excited trill. In response, the alien offered measured nods, its skin flickering in patterns that hinted at delight. Despite the partnership, danger lurked. Unmarked security drones prowled the station corridors, scanning for unauthorized power draws. When one winged overhead, Aaron held his breath, routing excess energy through hidden circuits. The drone's sensors registered normal levels and passed on. Aaron's heart pounded, but he continued, removing the final panel on the pod's dorsal stabilizer. Supervisor Dana Cross arrived in a hiss of hydraulic boots. Her face was a storm of disapproval as she took in the exposed coils and glowing conduits. "Vaz," she snapped, "what in the Galactic Alliance are you doing?" Aaron met her glare coolly. "Improving the pod's efficiency. These parts will keep Zarek alive if something goes wrong." Cross's lips curled. "Corporate mandates are clear. No enhancements. You risk contamination and liability. You have until 0600 to strip those extras and revert to standard specs, or you'll be off the station by day's end." Her hand hovered over the comm button. "Consider this your final warning." Aaron straightened, wiping grease from his forehead. "I won't undo them. These enhancements are the difference between a safe journey and a one-way trip through the void." He met Cross's eyes. "I'd rather face corporate wrath than let an innocent life pay the price for their regulations." Cross's jaw tightened. She pressed a button on her belt and security alerts chimed in the bay's comm system. Aaron watched the indicator lights switch from green to flashing red. He felt a pang of guilt. His actions would soon cost him his job. Yet he could not betray the trust he had built with Zarek. Turning back to the pod, Aaron initiated a final system sweep. The hybrid coolant loop maintained stable temperature under simulated stress. The quantum drive surged at 115% efficiency without overheating. Navigation failsafes activated within milliseconds of simulated faults. Zarek's pod responded with a gentle hum that resonated through the steel floor. Aaron placed a hand on the pod's surface and felt a warmth that wasn't merely mechanical. He imagined the tiny alien pilot returning to a homeworld that might otherwise have been sorted. In that moment, he chose humanity over protocol. As Cross barked orders to security personnel converging on the bay, Aaron locked down his tools and powered off the supervisory feeds. He wiped his hands on a rag and nodded at Zarek's pod. "Go on," he said softly. "Show them what we've built together." With a final defiant glance at the flashing alarms, Aaron Vos stepped back, prepared to face the consequences of his choices, knowing that some risks were worth taking if they saved a life and proved that human ingenuity could shine brightest in the darkest reaches of space. Fired for compassion. Aaron Vos watched the crimson warning lights pulse across the maintenance bay's walls as security drones drifted closer. He stood before Zarek's pod, heart heavy yet resolute. The hybrid systems hummed with quiet power, evidence of human courage and cleverness. Still, Aaron knew his time was up. He took a last sweeping look at the pod's sleek curves, where human-crafted coils intertwined with alien alloy, and whispered, "I'm done here." Moments later, Supervisor Dana Cross strode in, flanked by two burly security officers. Her eyes blazed with corporate ire. "Voz," she snapped, tapping her wrist comm, "you've been insubordinate. Your unauthorized work on alien technology constitutes a grave breach of station regulations." Aaron met her gaze steadily. He felt a knot tighten in his chest, but he did not flinch. Cross pressed a communicator on her belt. "Security, place him under arrest. Escort him to the director's office." The drones hovered forward, mechanical limbs clicking. Aaron exhaled slowly, squared his shoulders, and nodded. "I'll go," he said quietly. As he was led through the dimly lit corridors of Argent Horizon Station, Aaron's mind replayed every moment since Bay Delta. He remembered the jagged hull breach, Zarek's trembling form, midnight sparks, and the alien's curious hands. He recalled the bond of trust that transcended languages and regulations. Yet here he was, paying the price for compassion. In Director Yates's office, stark white lights revealed a desk stacked with holopads and directives. Yates sat, expression unreadable. He gestured at the terminal. "Read the charge, Voz," he said. Aaron stepped forward, eyes on the illuminated text. "Insubordination. Unauthorized modification of alien vessel. Endangering station safety. Immediate termination." Yates's voice was cold. 20 years of service, gone in a single choice. Aaron swallowed. He thought of his daughter, lost to the void years ago, and how no one had helped her. "Sir," he began, voice steady despite the hurt, "if I hadn't upgraded the life support, the child inside that pod would have died." Yates's lips tightened. "Corporate protocol exists to protect us. We cannot risk contaminating our technology, nor destabilizing the galactic balance. You broke those rules." He activated the final command on his desk. A holopad glowed with Aaron's fired status. Aaron nodded. "I understand," he said softly. He turned away, shoulders drooping like a flag in calm air. Yates continued, "You have 12 hours to clear your quarters. Security will escort you out." Outside the office, the station's hum felt colder. Aaron trudged toward the residential wing, each step echoing in silent hallways. His quarters were cramped but familiar, a makeshift life he built around tools, spare parts, and faded family photos. Now he was to abandon it all. When he arrived, he found a single duffel bag waiting in the corridor, a security detail at his back. Aaron opened the door to his room and surveyed the bare walls. He gathered what he could: a worn toolkit, a small holophoto of his late wife, a few personal effects. He stuffed them into the bag, one by one. As he worked, a soft chime announced an incoming message on his datapad. He paused and tapped it open. The screen filled with a message from a junior mechanic he mentored. "Impressive work down in Bay Delta. Hang in there, Vaugh. We know what you did was right." Aaron's chest tightened. A single line of text urged him on. "You inspired us." Tears welled as he closed the message. He set the datapad gently in the bag. He knew he would miss the station's hum, the clang of tools, the camaraderie of coworkers. Yet he harbored no bitterness, only a quiet pride that his actions had shown human strength. A firm knock brought him back to the present. 2 security officers entered. "Time's up, Mr. Voss." Aaron slung the bag over his shoulder and followed them out. Each corridor passed under blinking signs that once bore his name in the shift roster. Now those lights looked like judgment beams. In the transit terminal, Aaron joined the line of departing residents. He watched the viewport as Argent Horizon Station spun against the ink of space. In that glow, he thought of Zarek, the way the alien's eyes had reflected hope, how its trembling form had blossomed with confidence under his care. He wondered if Zarek had already left, journeying toward home thanks to his enhancements. Erin's duffel bag felt heavy with loss and possibility. He stepped onto the shuttle that would take him to the Lunar Transit Hotel, a temporary refuge for the displaced. The hatch sealed, airlock cycled, and the shuttle drifted away from the station. As the blue-white lights of Argent Horizon faded into the stars, Erin stared ahead. He did not know where he would find work next. Station managers would surely blacklist him, wary of his defiance. Yet deep in his bones, he carried a spark that no firing order could extinguish, the conviction that saving a life was worth any cost. When the shuttle docked at the hotel, Erin disembarked into a bustling terminal. He wove through travelers and workers, clutching his bag tightly. Eventually, he found his assigned room, a small capsule suite overlooking the lunar surface. Inside, he set the bag down and sat on the narrow bed. Night fell outside the porthole, Princess-class shuttles twinkling between the moon and Earth. The room was silent except for the hum of environmental filters. Erin propped the holophoto of his wife against the bunk. He whispered, "I did right by him." He lay back, eyes on the ceiling. Sleep came slowly. Dreams brought flashes of alien forests, of Zarek smiling in gratitude, of sparks dancing across an alien hull. In those visions, Erin found solace, proof that his compassion had bridged worlds. Before dawn, his wristcom beeped with another message. Erin reached for it, expecting a rejection or a cold reminder of his firing. Instead, the display showed a single phrase in Zarek's broken translation: "Life debt honored. Paths will cross." Erin's eyes flew open. He stared at the text as if it were a lifeline. A swell of hope warmed him. Somewhere out there, the small alien pilot he saved remembered him and promised to repay that kindness. He rose from the bunk, heart lighter than before. The lunar sky before him was vast and unending, filled with possibilities. Erin Vos packed his duffel bag once more, determined to keep moving forward. He would find a new birth, new challenges, and new ways to prove that humanity's greatest strength lay not in protocol, but in compassion. As the first rays of Earthrise painted the hotel window in gold, Erin smiled. Fired he might be, but in the cosmos beyond, he was still a hero, and his story, like the stars, was far from over. The fleet's return. Erin Vos spent the next weeks drifting between work calls on the Lunar Transit Hotel's worn corridors. He took odd jobs repairing suit seals, recalibrating gravity generators, and patching airlocks for miners who tolerated little delay. Each dawn, he watched Earthrise through his porthole, remembering Zarek's shimmering eyes and the promise of a life debt honored. Though he kept moving, his mind never strayed far from Bay Delta or the little alien pilot he'd saved. One evening, as Erin closed his holo workshop after a long shift, the hotel's intercom crackled to life. "Attention all guests. Prepare for an unscheduled dock arrival at Pier 5. All non-essential personnel please stand by for clearance." Erin paused, toolkit in hand, and frowned. The Lunar Transit rarely hosted incoming fleets, only the occasional shuttle or freighter. He set his tools down and followed the narrow hall toward the docking controls. By the time he reached the observation deck, a line of guests and workers had gathered, faces lit by the pale glow of the moon. Through the reinforced viewport, Erin spotted them. 5 sleek vessels of unknown design, arranged in precise formation. Their hulls rippled with the same iridescent sheen he'd seen on Zarek's pod, and blue-green lights traced intricate patterns along each craft. He felt his heart hammer. This was the fleet that owed him a debt. A hush fell as the largest ship detached and drifted toward the airlock. A translator broadcast stuttered across the deck's speakers, honor-bound envoy requesting immediate audience with Erin Vos. Identification. Humanity's savior. Erin's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't expected recognition so swift, nor such formality. Yet as the hatch cycled open, a slender figure stepped forward, flanked by 2 guardians who glowed with the same soft luminescence. The envoy was taller than Zarek had been, a young adult of that alien race, with the same shifting scales and opalescent eyes, set in a calm, noble face. Their voice was gentle yet carried the weight of countless worlds. Aaron Vos, you acted beyond duty to save one of our own. We come now to uphold our life debt, and to offer you a path not bound by corporate chains. The translator module rendered each word in clear, human tones. Aaron stepped forward, toolkit forgotten at his side. He felt a mix of pride and disbelief unraveling inside him. I never expected more than a thank you, he said, voice husky. I did what anyone would. I wanted to help. The envoy inclined their head, eyes reflecting gratitude deeper than any star could hold. Your compassion reshaped our future. You ensured the survival of our kin and enriched our technology. We wish now to offer you opportunity, a place among us as a craftsman, to travel the stars with full honors and resources beyond any station's limits. The envoy's promise echoed in the chamber like a soft hymn. Aaron swallowed. His mind raced. A chance to escape the endless grind of lunar gigs, to repair wonders across the galaxy, to be valued for his ingenuity rather than punished. Part of him hesitated. He had roots on human stations, memories of home, and duty to the species that raised him. But Zarek's trust, and the envoy's clear invitation, shook every doubt from his heart. He glanced back at the other vessels, each humming with latent power. Behind him, the hotel staff and guests watched breathlessly. Corporate would call it a breach of interstellar law. To Aaron, it was the culmination of every grease-stained hour spent in service to others. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the envoy's forearm. The skin felt cool, like starlight trapped in liquid. I accept, he said softly. Thank you. The envoy's smile was the first warmth Aaron had felt since leaving Argent Horizon Station. In that moment, barriers between species vanished, replaced by a bond stronger than any regulation. Behind them, the fleet's lights shifted, and the translator crackled one final message. Prepare for departure. Your craft awaits. Aaron turned to follow the envoy, catching sight of his toolkit left by the viewport. He hesitated only a second before grabbing it. His faithful companions of steel and wire would travel with him now, tools reborn for cosmic exploration. As he boarded the gleaming ship, Aaron cast a last glance at the moonlit hotel. The frontier of human society felt both distant and small compared to the endless corridors of space stretching before him. Yet he carried with him every lesson learned in Bay Delta, that empathy can defy protocol, that innovation arises from necessity, and that a single act of kindness can echo across the galaxy. The hatch sealed, and the ship's engines hummed to life with a resonant purr that reminded Aaron of Zarek's pod, but amplified, refined, and alive. Lights danced along the control panels, welcoming him as a guest of honor. Aaron stepped onto the polished deck, heart thrumming with possibility. Moments later, the fleet slipped free of the lunar docking clamps, ascending toward the void. Through the viewport, Aaron watched Earth and Moon fall away, their blue and gray surfaces shrinking into the star-spattered black. Ahead of him lay unknown worlds, uncharted stations, and alien frontiers waiting for human hands to reforge them. As the envoy guided him to the bridge, Aaron thought of home, of his lost daughter, of colleagues left behind, and of the countless lives that his future work might touch. He realized that his firing had been a rebirth, a shedding of old rules that freed him to true service among the stars. And somewhere in the swirling lights beyond the viewport, he sensed Zarek's presence, treading familiar paths in the restored pod. Their fates intertwined, they would chart new courses together, proving to the galaxy that compassion and skill, united, could reshape destiny itself. In the hushed glow of the alien vessel, Aaron Vos took his place at the console. Human mechanic, now honored envoy, ready to build bridges across worlds, to forge wonders in the void, and to show all species what it truly meant to be humanity, yeah. A name among stars. The alien ship Erin, now called home, was unlike any vessel constructed by human hands. It hummed with a rhythm that felt more like a living organism than a machine. Its walls shimmered with threads of bioluminescence that responded to touch, to thought, even to mood. The moment Erin set his feet on the bridge, he felt it, an intuitive connection, like the ship had already begun learning him. The envoy who greeted him introduced themselves with a soft tone. "I am Ulreth, bound speaker of the Core Kin. Our fleets do not name themselves, but you may call this vessel Karethna, the Seeker of Balance." The translator whispered the name with a reverence Erin could feel in his bones. Within hours, Erin was escorted to a private chamber, not just quarters, but a workspace too. The walls shifted to reveal tools tailored to his hands, some he recognized and others far beyond any Terran design. There were scanners that worked without radiation, alloys that healed fractures in seconds, and crystalline interfaces that sang data rather than displayed it. The alien engineers, seeing his curiosity, welcomed him without skepticism, and Erin, with the soul of a builder and the fingers of a fixer, dove in. He helped recalibrate the pulse stabilizers of a Valkyrian scout. He found a microscopic fault in one ship's life support conduits, something even their advanced systems had missed. Within a week, he was being called to every ship in the fleet, not as a curiosity, but as a problem solver, a craftsman of rare insight. They gave him a title in return, Skel Terran Vos, one who binds divergent flows. Ulreth explained it as both literal and symbolic. It honored how Erin had reconnected life and function, both in saving Zarek and in integrating human ingenuity into their own traditions. For the first time since his exile from Bay Delta, Erin felt valued, not as a cog in a corporate machine, but as a mind, a hand, a heart. And then the diplomatic mission began. The Valkyrian fleet, though cloaked in grace and mystery, was not without tension. Their reappearance so close to human space was bound to trigger questions, maybe even panic. Humanity's governments and megacourts had long feared alien intentions. The last contact, decades ago, had ended in fractured treaties and retreat. But now, aboard the Karethna, a new attempt at contact was underway. And this time, they had Erin Vos. Ulreth approached him in the ship's arboretum, where alien flora floated in zero-gravity streams of nutrient mist. "You understand your kind," she said, "not just their machines, but their fears. You are both human and not now. You can speak for us better than any translator." "You want me to mediate?" Erin asked, blinking. "I'm not trained for diplomacy. I've worked airlocks and comms relays. I patched coolant lines in -40 vacuum. This is a whole other level. But you saved one of us. You were punished for it, and now you thrive among us. That is more powerful than any ambassador's badge," she replied. He couldn't argue with that. When the fleet neared human space, a special channel was opened to the Terran Central Authority. The transmission was heavily encrypted, routed through a dozen comboys and satellites. The moment a human voice came through, Erin's chest tightened. "This is Officer Julian Rios of Terran Central Command. Identify yourself." Erin leaned forward. "This is Erin Vos, formerly of Argent Horizon, currently aboard the Valkyrian vessel Karethna." A pause. "Vos, you're alive." Reese sounded incredulous. "We received reports of your firing and disappearance. We assumed. Well, Dan, where are you calling from?" "I'm with the same fleet that arrived near Bay Delta weeks ago. The same one I helped stop from decaying in orbit. They've honored a life debt. They've invited me to help bridge the gap between us. They want to talk peace. Real peace." Another long pause. Then, "If this is a joke or a deepfake, it's elaborate. But if it's real, then we'll need proof. Lots of it." "You'll have it," Erin promised. The fleet didn't approach any planet directly. Instead, they hovered in deep space beyond Pluto's orbit, broadcasting peaceful intentions, their ship systems transparent to scans. And when the delegation shuttle arrived, escorted by a dozen wary human destroyers, Erin was waiting with Loreth on the outer platform. He wore a hybrid suit, human exoskin reinforced with Valkyrian threads that glowed faintly. His left gauntlet had a diagnostic scanner, his right a precision welder. He didn't look like a politician. He looked like a builder, a maker. And that was exactly the point. When the humans stepped out, officers, diplomats, a few nervous scientists, Erin stepped forward. "I'm not here to lecture," he said, his voice broadcast in both English and Valkyrian frequencies. "I'm here because I fixed a ship, saved a life, and earned trust. These people, these beings, aren't our enemies. They're our future partners, and I'm proof that it's possible." The humans looked past him to Loreth. Her shimmering form bowed low, a gesture of deference and trust. It was the beginning of something vast. Behind them, the Valkyrian ships pulsed with ambient light. And beyond that, the stars waited, patient, eternal. For Erin Voss, Skelteran, it was no longer about fixing machines. It was about fixing the broken trust between civilizations. And he was just getting started. The Terran Accord. The diplomatic chamber aboard Carathinash shimmered with calming hues of blue and green, colors selected deliberately, Erin learned, for their calming effects on most known sapient species. The air carried a subtle scent, something like mint and ozone, meant to ease tension and stimulate open thought. Everything had been calculated. The Valkyrians were masters of emotion and nuance. But despite the atmosphere, the humans seated across from Erin looked tense. They were military brass, corporate delegates, and a few high-ranking envoys from Earth's fractured governments. All had their reasons to be wary. Their eyes flicked constantly from Erin to Loreth and the other Valkyrians, sizing them up. Erin stood between both sides like a thread drawn tight. The first to speak was General Thayer, a woman with sharp eyes and a colder voice. "You claim to represent a peaceful fleet, Mr. Voss, but last time your friends entered our system, 3 satellites went dark, and 2 freighters were routed in panic. Explain that." Erin didn't flinch. Because of human fear, not alien aggression. The Valkyrians could have cloaked completely. They didn't. They wanted to be seen. "You were always going to react, but at least this time, you're reacting with questions instead of weapons." A corporate rep chimed in. "You talk like one of them now." "I am one of them now," Erin replied. "But I'm also still human. You made sure of that when you fired me and left me floating out there with nothing but a suit and my own ethics. I survived. And they gave me more than just shelter. They gave me a purpose." The room fell silent. Loreth rose, her voice echoing with musical undertones. "We are not conquerors. We do not expand by force. Our fleets travel through ancient pathways, watching, learning, offering aid when it is sought, not demanded. We once reached out to humanity. We were met with distrust. We left." "Why come back?" asked a diplomat from the Eurasian Alliance. "Because we saw a pattern," Loreth said. "The slow death of your worlds. Your corporations strangling your oceans. Your machines orbiting like hungry ghosts. But in that darkness we saw light. Engineers like Va. People who still build rather than hoard. So we returned, not to rule but to ally." Erin stepped forward. "We have a chance here. A real one. You keep talking about danger, about security. But what if for once we led with trust instead of suspicion?" General Thayer leaned back. "And what exactly are they offering?" The room dimmed. Without warning, the chamber floor projected a massive hologram. Planetary systems, energy conduits, warp corridors that humans hadn't even theorized yet. Alien blueprints hung in the air like floating symphonies. "We offer energy solutions that could power every city on Earth without poisoning its sky," said Loreth. "We offer atmospheric repair drones, medical nanite clouds, and deep space travel corridors that bend distance. The corporate rep sat forward, eyes gleaming. "And what do you want in return?" Erin answered, "Respect, collaboration, and one station." A murmur ran through the Terran group. "A joint station," he continued, "Terran Valkyrian, built from both our designs, staffed by both our people. Not a fortress, not a research silo, a proving ground. Engineers, scientists, thinkers, a place where we build trust by building things together." General Thayer narrowed her eyes. "A test, a beginning," Erin corrected. Silence again. Then a voice spoke from the back, an older delegate Erin didn't recognize. "I vote yes." One by one, heads nodded. Reluctantly, cautiously, but they nodded. The deal was called the Terran Accord, the first true peace agreement between humanity and an alien power, signed not by states, but by individuals, not forged in war, but in repair. Construction on the joint station began within a month. It was named Unity Spire, and Erin Vos was appointed its first systems director. Not because he was the most powerful, but because he was the first to bridge two worlds by doing what he did best, fixing what others abandoned. The station grew in orbit over Neptune, where human ships and Valkyrian vessels docked side by side. Together, they repaired derelict tech, cured rare diseases, and began building new engines that could fold space like paper. And all the while, Erin watched from the heart of the control dome, not as a traitor to his species or a puppet of aliens, but as a symbol of what humanity could be when it stopped building walls and started building bridges. He had left Earth disgraced. Now his name was known in 3 star systems. And as the stars turned slowly around Unity Spire, Erin Vos smiled. Because this time, he wasn't fixing something broken. He was building something new.